You're going to want to save this one and share it with your friends. Today we are making handmade tea bags. I'm Ingrid Carlsen, and I am so very glad that you're here today. And if you want to learn how to make one for yourself, then stay tuned. The paper I'm making here is going to be a little similar to what I made with the homemade Dollar Tree paper, except for this liquid that I'm using. My friends Lori and Jess taught me how to make this on live. I will have their full video linked down below so you can see how they did it and how they used it. And I will post the recipe for it towards the end of the video, so make sure that you stay tuned. After working with the napkins in the Dollar Tree homemade paper video, I decided to do this the right way, and instead of allowing the napkin to be double ply, I went ahead and removed one of the plies, added the mixture to it, and then added the other ply on top of it and added the mixture. And stay tuned because I'm going to mix this up a little bit towards the middle end of the video and show you some comparisons. And I already know that I don't have to tell you this, but anytime you're working with a liquid, and specifically napkins or anything that is very delicate, you want to be very delicate when you are applying the mixture. I have this sped up to 1.5 times speed just to make it go a little faster, but and it's showing like I'm being a little aggressive with it, but I am having a very light hand. If you look up at the upper right corner, you can see that I tore the paper a little bit, which is why I decided to add the second ply. Originally, I was only going to do one, and I'm going to be honest, the rips don't really matter. And for me, I think that they would be a lot of fun to use, maybe not for this project, but for other projects. I actually recorded this about a week ago, and as I'm watching it back doing the voiceover, I'm getting so many ideas of how to use this paper in future projects. So make sure that if you're not already following me, this is a great time to pause this video and click the follow button. And make sure when you're doing that to click the bell as well, because that will notify you anytime a new video comes out. If you want to make this with me at some point, leave me a comment down below and I'll see what I can do. Partly because I'm filming this, and also a bigger part because I'm impatient, I decided to take my heat gun and try to dry it. Now, I will tell you a couple of things. I'm not really sure the effect of having a heat gun hitting glue and the toxins that you may breathe in. So I don't, just be at your own risk with that. I'm not sure. But I will tell you that it did make the whole thing a lot quicker. And so if you are short on time and you can't dry outside, this may be an option for you. Here is our finished piece, and you can see here where it has actually just the 1 ply, and then the rest of this is 2 ply. I was worried here when it started tearing that we needed 2 plies, but I think I'm going to make another one and do 1 ply so that we can see through it a little more. So here, I don't know how much that's catching on camera, but you can see, definitely you can see through it a little bit better once you have it just 1. And I'll just be more careful with it, so I don't want to like scrape it very hard. I wanted to show you, this is a tea bag with, old tea in it, and you can see the texture of it. And this is more of a cloth. This is definitely more, it's almost like a cross between a cloth and parchment paper. It's a really great texture though. These are great pieces to add to your journals. And I'm going to show you, this is our solution that we made with the cornstarch mixture. And if you haven't seen that video for the Dollar Tree handmade paper, I will have it linked down below. And you can see here, it's definitely more opaque. You cannot see through it like you can see through this. Here's a piece that I believe it was just the one ply. And so it is similar to this, but it's a different feel. I don't know how to explain this, but this is more like smooth, and this is more almost grainy. So I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna make another one with just one ply, and I'll be back to show you the difference. I opted to grab a sponge brush instead of a regular brush in hopes that it would be easier. Oops. Also, I don't want to dip it all the way down into it. So what I can tell off the bat with the sponge brush is that I can almost control it more, but I can't actually. No, I would say you're probably, well, I don't know. Let's do this square. So I was trying to see if I could avoid some of the bubbles. And I think with the sponge brush, and I'm going to try out another square here so we have a good test subject, I guess. I'm going to try to pull out a lot of those bubbles. I don't mind, like right here where there is some of the napkin where it's like crinkling, because on both of the pieces that I have there, I like that. Like, I think that that looks really cool. It looks very vintage and old, weathered. And I didn't realize I ripped it right there. So now I'm gonna go grab the brush and we're gonna try that again. So I do have this brush. I'm gonna see if that makes a difference. No, not really. I would not use this. So I definitely don't see a big difference between the two brushes, other than if you do get a sponge brush, you can possibly cover more area, like if you get a bigger one, and you won't saturate the paper as much, maybe. I also do notice that with the regular brush, I do have to push down more on it, but I kind of can get the same result that I got up here a little bit. Let's see. I'm actually thinking that maybe the sponge brush is giving me less wrinkles. I will tell you that doing one ply is going to be awesome as well because it's going to dry a lot quicker. So the sponge brush does smooth out some of the creases. But it also could be going over it after you've let it sit for a while. I noticed that that also makes a difference. So I would just suggest that you play around with it and do different techniques. On some of them, add more of your good stuff. On others, add less. Let it crinkle, try to smooth it out, you know, use different things, use different brushes. You can try what am I trying to say here? You could try a palette. I don't know that I'd use a metal one. I would use a plastic one. I also have this, it's Catalyst by Princeton, but you can use also a spatula from Dollar Tree to put that on. Let's see. I actually really like that. Because it is scraping the excess off. You can see it pulling here. This might actually be my favorite. So again, just play around with what you have. You can also use your fingers. And I would love to know what your results are if you tried this out. Okay, I finished the piece that is just one layer, and the great news is that using a heat tool, I was able to dry it pretty quickly in just a couple minutes, whereas the one that had the 2 layers, you can even see the richness of the color, but also, if you can see my hand there, how transparent it is versus right there. So I think for this effect, we want to do the single ply. And I'm going to grab a regular tea bag, and I feel like this is definitely pretty close to it. It feels a little closer to it as well. And the color is pretty much spot on. So that is definitely my recommendation, is to go with the 1 ply with it and instead of the 2. Well, friends, I have good news and bad news. The bad news is I lost the footage of making the very first tea bag, and it's a larger size. The difference also is I did add the little tag on the end of it, but the good news is I do make 3 more different versions towards the end, so make sure that you stay tuned. I figured I'd go ahead and leave this portion in so you could see the tea bag itself, as well as see how I sew the edges up. here is the finished bag, and I do love it, but I feel like it needs to be a little more translucent, and I think that a good way to do this is to add some just either Mod Podge, or in my case I'm using watered down school glue, and you're going to see almost instantly when I apply it, you can see through it. I do distress this a little bit by adding some kind of holes to poke the two people's faces through, and I think that this is a lot of fun, but you definitely don't have to do that, and you can leave it as is, or you could even apply the glue mixture all over the bag. And just look at the finished bag. It is so adorable. I love their faces poking through. It just adds more vintage feel to it, like it's been around for a long time. Okay, first off, if I sound all stuffed up, it's because I just had a little sneezing fit, so I apologize for that. But to make your bags, and you can make them as close to a tea bag like my first one, or you can start getting creative and make them a little bit more abstract, you're going to cut a rectangle out. And so I started this one off by actually cutting it into a square, but then I realized I wanted it to be smaller, so I'm going to cut the excess off of the right hand side, and then I'm left with the rectangle. In the same manner that you would do a tag, this is how I'm going to approach this. I'm going to pinch in the corners into little triangles, and I didn't measure anything. They're not all even, and I think it looks cute. I almost would say that it looks better if they're not all even and it looks more handmade, but if you feel like you needed to be even, I totally get that too. I think this printable might be from one of my Christmas kits. I cannot remember anymore, but I loved that little script there, so I'm just going to cut it out so that it will fit inside of my tea bag. And if these tea bags aren't cute enough, let's add some hand stitching to take it to the next level. Instead of sewing around the whole perimeter of the bag, I decided to just do one edge and then have like knotted ends on the top and the bottom, and then I'm going to do the same on the left hand side. If you have a palette knife, I would suggest using it here because two reasons. One, it glides on really well, and number two, and probably my most important reason, is that then you don't have to clean a brush out with glue inside of it. So that's something I don't really love. And you can almost instantly see, as soon as the glue penetrates through the paper, how the image from underneath comes out. As I start working through the bags, I start getting a little more relaxed and starting to play. And in this case, I'm not even going to measure anything out. I'm going to cut out one of these little book pages. It's an image found on my Patreon, and I am not even going to fold over the edges. I'm just going to sandwich the paper around this image, and it came out so adorable. On this bag, I wanted to experiment and see what would happen if I added the glue directly to the image. instead of the paper underneath. And I think that you can see a difference. It's more clear when I close the paper over. Also, if you notice there, I must have had some residue paint, just like a tiny little bit, and it smudged on my photo, but the grungier, the better, I say. I'm going to go ahead and add some glue on top of her face to just get her to shine even a little more. And I love the way that this one came out. It's definitely not an exact replica of a tea bag, but I love the grunginess of the torn edges. What do you think? On my last bag, I decided to go ahead and cut out a rectangle shape, and I'm going to cut out another one of these little mini book pages. But I'm going to add a little surprise on top of the glue before I put the paper down. And I'm wondering if you might be able to guess before, no cheating, before I put it down. Take your guess, pause this video, and leave a comment down below to see if you're right. Okay, drum roll. If you guessed instant coffee, then you were right. And I think that it came out really cute. It's not like completely defined, but I do think it takes these bags up a notch and adds another grungy touch to them. Okay, now the extra fun part. This is where we're going to be able to make art using our sewing machine. So have fun. Make your lines as funky or as precise as you want, and play around with your stitches. Play around with where you're putting your stitches. Try to add a stitch maybe down the center of the page. I think another cool one would be to add like a cross or maybe even a circle. This is how my tea bags all turned out, and I really couldn't have been happier with them. They are so sweet, and I think a great embellishment to add to any page of a journal. I hope that you try it out, and just remember to have fun, experiment, and add little pieces of you to every project you make, because that's what will make it special. thank you so much for being here today. I hope that you were inspired to try your hand at making your very own handmade tea bags. I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say in the comments, and I will see you very soon. Oh, and if you haven't been told today, you are wonderful, you are beautiful, and I love you. Until next time, bye.